A young dude named Itsuka Shido comes across a spirit girl who's been rejected by a world in ruins. This girl, whom Shido names Toka, turns out to be the one who caused a lot of destruction 30 years ago, and now she's back. The only way to calm her down and prevent more chaos is by using his infinite RIZZ on her. It's a strange situation, but Shido is determined. The world has been rocked by spacequakes ever since the biggest one hit Eurasia, claiming 150 million lives and wiping out a chunk of the area. Japan wasn't left out of the chaos, but folks somehow managed to get back to their normal routines of not getting blown up, despite the constant threat of more spacequakes. One of those folks was Shido Itsuka, who lived with his energetic little sister Kotori. One morning, they headed to school after hearing about a minor spacequake that had just gone kaboom like Megumin. They made plans to meet up at a nearby family restaurant later, totally unaware that someone was tailing Shido like he was the last ramen bowl on Earth. When Shido got to RIZZ High School, he bumped into that stalker, who turned out to be the class smarty pants, Origami Tobichi. Before they could exchange pleasantries and threats, a spacequake emergency alert blared across the city, sending everyone scrambling for safety with the help of fancy tech. Most of the population ended up hunkered down underground. But Shido noticed that Kotori's GPS still pinged from the restaurant. It's like the universe decided to drop a cosmic mic on their plans. Worried sick, Shido put on his Superman suit and braved the chaos to rescue her. But on his way, another spacequake hit, reducing buildings to rubble around him. In the crater left by the quake, a girl decked out in fancy armor popped up. And no, it's not Iron Man's long-lost cousin, it's some spirit warrior ready to rumble. She faced off with Shido, asking if he'd off her. Before he could even reply, a fleet of flying thingies swooped in, with one in the lead launching missiles at the chick in shining armor. But she whipped out her sword and deflected the onslaught like a boss. Then, another attacker joined the fray, and lo and behold, it was Origami herself, swooping in like she's auditioning for a superhero squad. Turns out, she and the armored girl were old acquaintances. The showdown between Origami and the armored chick unleashed a shockwave that knocked Shido out cold. When Shido came to, he found himself under the watchful eye of a military lady named Raine Murasame. She spilled the beans that he was on some ship called the Fraxinus, run by a group called Ratatosker, after getting knocked out in the skirmish like Yamcha. But when Shido started asking too many questions, Raine whisked him off to the bridge, where he discovered that his kid sis, Kotori, was the captain. Peak family matters over intergalactic crises. As Kotori spilled the beans about the mysterious girl being a spirit, Shido noticed she was acting way differently. Kotori brushed it off and launched into an explanation about spirits, the AST meaning the Anti-Spirit Squad, and how Shido was their golden ticket to dealing with spirits without whacking them. Bro has to fight with his #1 weapon. RIZZ Kotori told Shido to go back to his regular life, but he demanded more answers. So Kotori spilled that she left her phone at the restaurant and that they were chilling 15,000 meters above the sea in the wake of the spacequake. Bro got more answers than he could handle. The next day, Raine Murasame joined the teaching staff at RIZZ High School, making quite an entrance by dozing off during her intro as the new physics teacher. Shido later grilled Raine and Kotori about her and the fact that she turned the biolab into her personal den. Raine figured it was a solid idea for someone from Ratatosker to keep tabs on him, and Kotori had already sorted out her middle school education drama. Then, Kotori asked Raine to hook Shido up with a training program to prep him as the newest Spirit RIZZ Lord. When the program fired up, Shido found himself in a visual novel crash course on rizzing up spirits. Meanwhile, Origami cornered Shido and told him to forget about their encounter during the Spirit Showdown. She let slip that she had a vendetta against spirits since one wiped out her fam 5 years back. She has held that grudge longer than Goku training in the time capsule. After a night of burning the midnight oil to unsee everything shown to him by Kotori, Shido hit the school grounds. During the day, he swung by the physics preparation room, where he nearly walked in on a rather intimate moment with Raine. Turns out, she was just installing an invisible earpiece in his right ear. Soon enough, Kotori showed up, announcing that Stage 2 of his RIZZ training course was about to kick off. This time, Shido had to make his teacher Tamai fall for him. Easier said than done, especially when it involved rizzing a teacher. But Kotori insisted it was essential for Shido to practice, for when spirits became his target. Shido tried his best, starting with compliments on Tamai's outfit, but Raini stepped in, guiding him towards some sweet talk she thought would work on a 29-year-old like Tamai. The plan sort of worked, although Raini didn't expect Tamai to jump straight to marriage thoughts. Luckily, Shido managed to slip away, only to run smack into Origami, catching a peek of her white sacred armor in the process. Despite knowing Origami's true identity, Kotori decided to use her for Shido's training. With Raini's guidance, Shido tried his luck with Origami next. It seemed to go well, but Shido's embarrassment turned their date into a real deal. Then, a spacequake alarm blared across the school, and Kotori ordered Shido to the Fraxinus because the quake was about to hit RIZZ High School. Hours later, Shido found himself back at the school, now a wreck from the spacequake. Kotori filled him in on his solo mission, deal with the spirit, codenamed Princess, since the AST, Origami included, couldn't handle indoor combat. After a pep talk and crew intro, Kotori left a nervous Shido to it with nothing but raw RIZZ in his arsenal. Approaching the spirit, Shido got rejected at first. Even with Ratatasker's help, he was still in hot water. But when he declared his determination not to reject her, the spirit's demeanor shifted. She warmed up to Shido, admitting she didn't have a name. After a failed attempt by Ratatosker to suggest a name, Shido gave her Toka after their first meeting on April 10th. Toka liked it and even smiled. Suddenly, gunfire rained down on them, but Kotori's warning saved Shido. Toka advised him to bail to avoid the bullets, but he refused, opting to be a simp instead. They found shelter in a wrecked classroom, shielded by Toka's barrier. During their talk, Toka revealed she knew squat about herself. Kotori saw her chance and urged Shido to make his move. Despite Ratatasker's teasing, Shido went for it. The gunfire stopped when the AST spotted Shido with Toka. Origami swooped in, and Toka's mood soured. She summoned her weapon, Sandalphon, and attacked. Origami survived, scolded by her superior for being reckless, before being whisked away. Shido was unharmed, but left pondering the events. The next day, Toka appeared, expecting Shido to keep his promise. After a wardrobe change into the school uniform, they headed out to their next destination. After all the craziness settled down at RIZZ High School, Shido and Toka set out on their date, and the crew from the Fraxinus kept watch over them. Toka, not really understanding what a date was all about, got a bit confused. Every time she tried a new kind of food, she thought it was a separate date. Someone hasn't touched grass for too long. Then they headed to a busy shopping area. Toka got totally flustered by all the people bustling around. She thought it was some kind of attack on her. Poor Toka isn't used to all that hustle and bustle, but Shido was there to help her through it. Origami lurked in the shadows like a ninja on a covert mission, observing as Shido and Toka moved from a fancy restaurant to a more casual shopping spot. Toka enjoyed tasting various foods, but noticed Shido's lack of enjoyment. They ended up at an arcade filled with crane games, where Toka inadvertently expressed her growing bond with Shido. Their journey continued to a cliff edge, where Toka finally grasped the idea of a date and appreciated the beauty of the world. Meanwhile, Origami received the green light to eliminate Toka with a single blast, but Shido stepped in, taking the hit. Bro took it like Zuko did for Katara. That's rough, buddy. Toka, enraged by Shido's apparent death, attacked Origami with fury. However, before Toka could deliver the final blow, Shido miraculously returned like he found his respawn point. His wounds healed and fell from the sky toward Toka. To prevent the city's destruction by a critical state, Halvanhelev, Toka kisses Shido as they descended to the cliff edge, her astral dress vanishing. As they landed, Toka's last wish was for Shido to take her on another date. Toka switched to Shido's class, sparking an immediate rivalry with Origami. Meanwhile, Shido encountered Yoshino for the first time while dashing through a rain-drenched shrine on an unexpectedly gloomy day. Mistaking her for an ordinary girl, he continued on his way. At school, Toka whipped up cookies and competed with Origami for Shido's attention and his life supply of spirit RIZZ. Upon returning home, Shido discovered that Toka would be staying with them since he had sealed her powers. Kotori clarified that it was also part of his training, as he still needed to help seal more spirits. Later, when a spatial quake alarm disrupted school, Shido investigated and found Yoshino, also known as Hermit, causing the disturbance. Toka stayed sheltered while Shido confronted Yoshino, but Toka ended up following him and witnessed them accidentally locking lips. Toka then retrieved her powers from Shido, but this only stirred up Yoshino, who launched an attack before darting off. Using her Angel Zadkill, Yoshino managed to slip away from the nearby AST while Origami eyed Yoshino's puppet. Toka avoided Shido because of her feelings about what went down between him and Yoshino, locking luscious lips. She had a heart-to-heart with Rainy, getting some advice and clarity about the situation. Meanwhile, Shido lent Yoshino a hand in searching for her puppet, Yoshinon. They ended up at Shido's place for a meal when Yoshino got hungry. Turns out, Yoshinon was more than just a puppet to Yoshino. He was like her best bud, strong, cool, bold, basically everything Yoshino wanted to be. Just as Shido was getting close to Yoshino, Toka barged in, apologizing but totally misreading the vibe. Yoshino vanished, Toka stormed out again, and Shido found out Yoshinon was chilling at Origami's crib.
2,000 years later.
After class, Shido went up to Kurumi and asked her out on a date, and she happily agreed. As she headed off, Shido couldn't shake off the conversation he had with Kotori and Reina about Kurumi. They'd mentioned how the AST had supposedly taken down a spirit the day before, Kurumi included. But Shido knew Kurumi had been in class, so they were all scratching their heads over how she managed to survive getting offed. Lost in thought about Kurumi, Origami suddenly cornered Shido, demanding an explanation for his earlier words. But he dodged her questions and bolted faster than Lightning McQueen on a cold night. Origami's mind flashed back to her own creepy encounter with Kurumi, where Kurumi had toyed with the idea of eating her but decided to save her for dessert after dealing with Shido. Presently, Origami muttered Shido's name anxiously. After school, Shido and Toka were heading home from picking up groceries. Shido felt guilty for missing lunch with Toka earlier and asked if she'd managed to eat. Toka sadly confirmed she had, but a flashback revealed she'd been waiting for Shido and ended up in tears. Her friends, Ai Mai and Mi, comforted her, blaming Shido for making her sad. Typical yes-men antics. Back at Shido's place, Toka locked the door and closed the curtains mysteriously. Shido tried to figure out what was up, but Toka just unbuttoned her uniform and started crawling around with tickets in her mouth. Completely confused, Shido ended up on the couch, where Toka revealed her plan for a date the next day. Confused but going with the flow, Shido accepted the tickets and Toka's invitation. Reading the note Toka had left behind, Shido looked at the instructions. His phone rang, and it was Origami, asking for a date at Tengu Station. Before he could explain, Origami hung up, leaving Shido stuck with a triple date. He might be taking this job too seriously. The next day at the station, Shido waited nervously for Toka, while Kotori lectured him about being triple booked. Toka finally arrived, dressed to impress, and they headed off, bumping into Origami, who'd shown up way early. Toka asked about an aquarium, and Shido explained as they arrived. Meanwhile, Kurumi showed up early too, raising eyebrows. Inside, Toka was thrilled by the sea creatures and dragged Shido along. Kotori ordered Shido to meet Kurumi, so he faked a stomachache and slipped out. Meeting Kurumi, they debated where to go, with Kotori's crew suggesting options. They settled on a lingerie shop, much to Shido's shock. Kurumi picked out some pieces, and Shido awkwardly steered her to the racier one. As Kurumi tried it on, Ai Mai and Mi showed up, causing chaos. Kotori asked Shido to meet Origami, but not before complimenting Kurumi. Shido faked another stomachache and bolted as the trio chased him. Bro is in big trouble. At the station, Shido met Origami, apologizing for being late. They grabbed lunch and headed for a movie. Origami invited Shido to stay over after, leaving him confused. Meanwhile, Kotori's crew spotted Toka leaving the aquarium to look for Shido. At the restaurant, Toka ran into Origami, and they argued before realizing they were both looking for Shido. They set off together to find him. In the park, Shido tried to find Kurumi, but stumbled upon a grisly scene with blood everywhere. Horrified, he panicked until Mana appeared, saving him.
2,000 years later.
Mana checked in on Shido, who seemed puzzled. Kurumi complained about Mana interrupting her and Shido's date. Mana then told Shido to hold on while she dealt with Kurumi, whom she blasted with laser beams. Despite dodging, Kurumi got hit and knocked out like Yamcha's signature KO pose. Shido pleaded with Mana not to kill Kurumi. Kurumi, barely holding on, praised Shido before Mana finished her off. Shido questioned Mana's ease in killing and her nonchalant attitude. Mana explained that she was just doing her duty to eliminate spirits. She warned Shido that Kurumi wouldn't stay dead forever and had killed her multiple times before. Toka and Origami found Shido later, but he avoided them due to the recent events. As Shido walked home alone, he met Toka, who insisted they continue their date. At a restaurant, Shido worried about covering the bill, but Toka revealed she had Rainey's credit card. She pulled an Uno reverse card, but with a different card. During their date, Toka learned about Mana and Kurumi's situation. Shido expressed uncertainty about dealing with Kurumi, but Toka reminded him of the positive impact he'd had on her life. The next day, Kurumi confronted Shido at school, surprised he showed up. Shido decided to save Kurumi, refusing to let her be killed. Meanwhile, Mana confronted Kotori about Shido's safety and her past with Dem. As Shido prepared to face Kurumi, a dark energy wave surrounded the school, incapacitating students. Toka felt weak, but Shido remained unaffected due to sealing Toka and Yoshino's powers. Bro was saved as a result of pure RIZZ. On the rooftop, Kurumi explained her plan to drain everyone's time within the barrier. Shido tried to reason with her, offering to save her. Kurumi reluctantly agreed to stop the barrier but summoned a spacequake. Shido threatened to jump off the roof unless Kurumi stopped the spacequake. She relented, but a clone of Kurumi mortally wounded her. The real Kurumi captured Shido, intending to kill him. Mana intervened, and Kurumi summoned her angel to fight back. Toka, Origami, and Kotori arrived to confront Kurumi.
6.5 hours later.
At Tengu Hospital, Ryuko visited Origami after hearing she could be discharged the next day. She advised Origami to take an extra day off before leaving, mentioning some new equipment being brought to their base, but warning Origami about its nature. Aboard the Fraxinus, Reina and Kanazuki called Shido, advising him to take Kotori to Ocean Park for their date. Kanazuki's jealousy over the possibility of Shido seeing Kotori in a swimsuit amused Shido, who reminded him not to say such things aloud. Reina informed Shido of arranged training in preparation for his date, which he accepted eagerly, determined to save Kotori. The next day, Shido took Toka and Yoshino to a swimsuit store to help them pick out swimsuits. Toka's confusion about swimsuits led to Origami's fabricated explanation about them being battle gear against spirits. Shido's concern grew, but Reina assured him it was training to get him accustomed to being around girls in different swimsuits. As Toka and Yoshino browsed, Shido worried about the relevance of the training, unintentionally drawing Reina's attention to a swimsuit model. After a series of awkward encounters, Origami begged Toka for information about the flame spirit from the previous day's battle. Origami's presence surprised Shido, who asked about her injuries. She claimed to be passing by but questioned Toka about the flame spirit, begging for information. Toka reluctantly agreed to share, and Origami persisted, leading to an awkward exchange. Toka agreed to tell her, and Origami asked Shido to help her pick out a swimsuit. Toka then challenged Origami to a swimsuit battle, with the winner getting a date with Shido. Shido was uncomfortable, but Reina advised him to go along with it. During the battle, Toka and Origami vied for Shido's attention with different swimsuits. Yoshino's struggle with her swimsuit led to her winning the battle by making Shido's heart race too much.
FBI, open up!
Later, aboard the Fraxinus, Kanazuki asked Shido if he was ready for what was next. Shido affirmed, expressing a desire to remember what happened 5 years ago. Kanazuki offered to show him footage of the incident, surprising Shido. Examining the footage, Shido noticed a strange entity next to Kotori, triggering a rapid flashback and causing him to pass out. The next day, Kanazuki apologized to Shido for showing him the video. Shido reassured him, focusing on his date with Kotori. Reina informed him that Kotori was nearby and on her way to meet him. As Kotori arrived, Shido greeted her, prompting her to complain playfully about his lack of compliments on her outfit. They began their date, only to be surprised by the unexpected presence of Toka and Yoshino, who had brought their swimsuits. Reina explained that she thought it would be better for them to tag along. At Ocean Park, Toka and Yoshino rush to the pools, leaving Shido and Kotori alone. Kotori changed into her swimsuit, prompting Shido to compliment her. However, his awkward compliment caused Kotori to question his sincerity. Back aboard the Fraxinus, Kanazuki's strange decision during the swimsuit battle puzzled the crew. During lunch, Shido noticed Kotori's subdued mood and contacted Raini, who confirmed her emotional state. Kotori abruptly left the table, leaving Shido puzzled. After leaving Ocean Park, Shido brings Kotori along to try the rides at the amusement park. First, they experience the drop tower ride. Visibly scared, Kotori asks Shido if it's too late to get off. With a smirk, Shido reassures her, but as the ride drops, Kotori screams loudly. Next, they tackle a roller coaster. While Shido enjoys himself, Kotori remains scared. She comments on the ridiculousness of the rides before another drop prompts her to scream again. Until next time, keep your spirits high and your hot springs even hotter. See you in the next video, anime fam.